The morning sun was just breaking over the horizon when Captain Jake Morrison saw the impossible. Standing on the bridge of his research ship, Aurora's Dream, he watched a massive alien vessel appear in Earth's orbit like a ghost becoming solid. The ship was huge, longer than any building he had ever seen, made of what looked like crystal that glowed with strange colors. Jake had been in space for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. His hands shook as he reached for the communication controls to contact Earth. The alien ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, its surface moving with patterns of light that hurt his eyes when he looked too long. 3 days later, Jake found himself in a very different place. The United Nations building in New York was buzzing with activity like a kicked anthill. Scientists, military officers, and world leaders had gathered for the most important meeting in human history. Jake was there because his ship had been the first to spot the aliens. Making him an unwilling expert on first contact, the alien leader called himself Ambassador Kethfer. And he was unlike anything from Earth's movies or books, standing almost 8 feet tall, with forearms and skin that changed colors like oil on water. He moved with the confidence of someone who owned the universe. When he entered the meeting room, every human present felt suddenly very small. Kethfer settled into a specially built chair that looked more like a throne. 2 of his arms rested casually while the other 2 moved as he talked, making gestures that seemed to mock everything around him. His voice was strange too, with sounds that seemed to come from deep in his chest and made the windows vibrate slightly. "Your species shows promise," Kethfer said, looking around the room like a teacher examining children. "We have watched your recent attempts to leave your little world. Very cute, really. It's like watching babies try to walk for the first time." Secretary of State Linda Hayes sat at the main table, her face calm but her knuckles white where she gripped her papers. Next to her, General Paul Chen of the military remained stone-faced, showing nothing of what he was thinking. Both had been briefed on what to expect, but the reality was much worse than the reports. "We thank you for your interest in our world," Hayes said carefully, choosing each word like she was walking through a minefield. "We hope to learn about your people and find ways to work together in peace." The alien's laugh sounded like breaking glass mixed with wind chimes. "Peace, yes. Though I wonder if you really understand what peace means in our galaxy." He waved one hand, and suddenly the air above the table filled with a glowing map showing thousands of star systems connected by bright lines. "The hegemony controls 14,000 worlds across 47 sectors. We keep order among species that could turn your entire planet into dust without even trying hard." The map changed, showing huge space stations and fleets of warships that made Earth's biggest aircraft carriers look like toys. Jake felt his stomach drop as he realized the scale of what they were facing. These aliens had been building their empire while humans were still figuring out how to make fire. "Your world has some interesting things we want," Kethfer continued, his voice taking on the tone of someone discussing the weather. "Rare metals, unique plants and animals, and of course your people themselves. Humans would do very well in our work colonies, once we teach you how galactic civilization really works." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. General Chen leaned forward slightly, his voice carefully controlled. "Work colonies. Nothing bad," Kethfer assured them, with a wave that somehow made everything worse. "Simply honest work under proper guidance. Your people would learn valuable skills while helping make the galaxy more prosperous. Nice. You should consider it an honor. Not every primitive species gets such a chance." Dr. Amy Foster, who ran NASA's Alien Life Research Division, spoke from her seat near the wall. "What if we want to develop on our own?" The alien's 4 eyes focused on her with something that might have been pity. "My dear little creature, independence is something you earn through strength. Your species has barely managed to put a few metal boxes on your moon. You travel between galaxies, like you cross streets." He gestured again, and the hologram showed one of their smaller ships, still massive compared to anything humans had in space. "This scout ship alone carries enough power to burn your countenance clean, and it is one of our smallest vessels." President Kate Williams had been quiet through the whole meeting, but now she spoke. "Ambassador Kethfer, we appreciate your generous offer. However, we need time to think about our answer." "Of course," the alien replied, rising to his full, intimidating height. "We are not unreasonable. You have 7 of your days to decide. Choose wisely. The hegemony's patience is great, but it does have limits." As the alien delegation left the room, their footsteps seemed to echo with some kind of technology that made each step sound heavier than it should. Jake watched them go and felt like he was watching humanity's future walk away with them. Later, that night, deep underground beneath the Pentagon, President Williams sat in a room that officially did not exist. The meeting she was about to have would never appear in any records. And the people around the table had security clearances so high that most of the government did not know they existed. Admiral Rick Stone, commander of something called the Deep Space Defense Initiative, was pulling up displays that made the alien demonstration look like a child's science project. Jake was not there. His security clearance was not nearly high enough for what was about to be discussed. "How long until the fleet can be ready?" Williams asked. 6 hours for the first group," Stone replied. 18 hours for everyone. Dr. Foster, who had seemed nervous during the alien meeting, now looked completely different. Gone was any trace of fear or uncertainty. "The analysis of their biology is done. Technology is impressive, but it depends heavily on exotic matter control. Our quantum disruption fields should work very well against them." General Chen smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived. "Let them enjoy feeling superior for a few more days. It will make the surprise that much better when they learn the truth." "What about the Proximans?" Williams asked.
"Yes, standing by as planned,"
Stone replied. "They're as eager as we are to see the hegemony's reaction when they learn what humanity has really been doing for the past 70 years. In the command center's main display, Earth looked peaceful and defenseless, a blue marble hanging in the dark, but appearances, as the Zephyrians were about to learn, could be very deceiving indeed. Humanity had learned long ago that the galaxy was full of bullies who mistook kindness for weakness. They had spent 7 decades making sure no one would ever make that mistake about Earth again. 3 days had passed since the aliens gave their ultimatum, and Ambassador Kethfer decided it was time to show humanity what real power looked like. The KZ ship, the Stellar Dominance, moved slowly toward the asteroid belt where chunks of rock floated in the cold darkness of space. He had chosen a perfect target, a piece of space rock about the size of a small city. Every television station on Earth was broadcasting the demonstration. News reporters struggled to keep their voices steady as they described what was about to happen. In homes, offices, and public places around the world, people gathered around screens to watch their future being decided by beings from another world. In New York, Jake Morrison sat in a military briefing room, watching the alien ship position itself near the chosen asteroid. Around him, officials and scientists stared at the screens with expressions ranging from fear to fascination. The rock they were about to destroy contained more metal than some small countries had ever mined. Kethfer's voice came through the communication channels, speaking to all of Earth like a teacher about to show children a simple lesson. "People of Earth, what you are about to see represents just a tiny fraction of the power the hegemony controls. This asteroid contains about 7 billion tons of iron, nickel, and other materials. Watch carefully and learn." The Stellar Dominance extended what looked like a delicate crystal structure from its front section. Energy began building along the device, visible as a growing golden light that seemed to bend the space around it. The light grew brighter and brighter until it hurt to look at, even through the cameras far beneath the Pentagon. Dr. Amy Foster sat surrounded by banks of computers and screens that showed every detail of the alien weapon's charging process. Her fingers moved quickly across holographic displays as she recorded everything the alien ship was doing. Around her, technicians fed information to Admiral Stone's hidden fleet, still waiting in the shadows beyond Earth's moon. "Energy output is climbing past 12 terawatts," Foster reported to the secure communication channel. "Their exotic matter resonance is locked at a specific frequency. Their targeting system is very impressive, but it follows a pattern we can predict." "Understood." Admiral Stone's voice crackled through the encrypted channel from his flagship somewhere in the outer solar system. "All ships are recording everything. We will be ready when the time comes. The golden energy reached its peak and HFY fired his weapon. The beam itself was invisible except for the tiny particles of space dust. It turned to glowing plasma along its path. It struck the asteroid with perfect accuracy, and for a moment nothing seemed to happen. Then the 7 billion-ton rock simply disappeared, not exploded into pieces, not shattered into fragments, but completely converted into its basic atoms in a brilliant flash of light that briefly outshone the nearby stars. The energy release was controlled and precise, showing off accuracy as much as raw power. On Earth, the silence was complete. Even the news reporters had nothing to say. Beautiful, is it not? HFY's voice carried clear satisfaction. This weapon, which your scientists are no doubt desperately trying to understand, is what we consider suitable for clearing small debris from space lanes. Our real warships carry devices that make this look like a child's toy in the Pentagon's Hidden Command Center. President Williams watched the recording of the asteroid's destruction for the 4th time. The implications were clear. If the aliens wanted to destroy Earth's cities, they could do it with surgical precision and overwhelming force. Admiral, are you confident our defenses will work? She asked. Stone's quiet chuckle came through clearly. Despite the heavy encryption, Madame President, if they think that display was impressive, they should wait to see what we have been building out here for the past 50 years. General Chen turned toward a secondary display that showed energy readings throughout the solar system. Any word from our other friends? Chen nodded toward readings that showed unusual activity near Jupiter's moons. Approximate observation. Post is maintaining communication silence as we requested, but their sensor data confirms what we already suspected. The Zephyrians have no idea they are being watched by a civilization that has been traveling in space for over 300 years. Dr. Foster looked up from her analysis, her expression thoughtful. Their targeting system has a serious weakness. The harmonic pattern they use for exotic matter control creates a resonance cascade we can predict. Our quantum interference generators should be able to disrupt their entire weapon network. What about their defensive shields? Williams asked. Very impressive against normal energy weapons, Foster admitted. But they are designed to deflect and absorb incoming attacks. They are not built to handle weapons that simply ignore the basic forces they are trying to manipulate. On the main screen, HFY's ship was already moving back toward Earth's orbit, its demonstration complete. The ambassador's final message of the day carried an unmistakable tone of finality and threat. You have seen what waits for those who oppose the hegemony? You have also seen the precision with which we can use our power. Your cities could be removed as easily as that asteroid, yet we prefer cooperation to destruction. 4 of your days remain to make your choice. Choose wisely. That same night, in hidden construction facilities beyond the orbit of Pluto, the final pieces of humanity's true fleet were being installed. Ships that had been under construction for decades, using technology developed with allies the Zephyrians did not even know existed. Prepared for possible action, Captain Lisa Murphy stood on the bridge of the UES Devastator watching her crew run final checks on weapons that existed in physics textbooks the Zephyrians had never written. Around her ship, hundreds of similar vessels waited in the cold darkness between worlds. Invisible to any scanning technology the hegemony possessed, the Devastator was not like the research ships and space stations Earth showed to the public. It was 3 kilometers long, built with metal alloys that did not officially exist, and powered by energy sources that made fusion reactors look like campfires. Its weapons could do things that would have seemed like magic to earlier generations of humans. All ships report ready for immediate action, her communications officer announced. Murphy nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display showing Zephyrian positions throughout the solar system. The alien ship looked powerful and impressive on her screens, but she knew something HFY did not. It was already surrounded by forces that could destroy it in seconds if necessary. Send a message to Admiral Stone, she ordered. Tell him the Devastator-class ships are ready to show our guests what real power looks like. In the space around Earth, invisible to alien sensors, hundreds of human warships held their positions and waited. The demonstration was over, but the real show was about to begin. Soon, the Zephyrians would learn that their 7 billion-ton asteroid trick was nothing compared to what humanity had learned to do in the dark between the stars. The countdown to revelation had begun, and Earth was ready. On the final day of the ultimatum, Ambassador Kethfer walked into the United Nations building like a man coming to collect a debt he knew would be paid. His confidence had grown over the past week, and he brought more aliens with him this time. These new ones were clearly soldiers, taller and stronger than Kethfer, with skin that looked like metal and forearms that ended in what were obviously built-in weapons. The same conference room that had hosted their first meeting now felt smaller and more tense. President Williams sat at the head of the human delegation, her face calm but unreadable. General Chen and Dr. Foster sat beside her, while Secretary Hayes handled the formal diplomatic procedures. None of them looked nervous, which should have been Kethfer's first warning that something was wrong. Ambassador Williams began, her voice carrying the full weight of her office. "We have given very careful thought to your proposal." Kethfer leaned back in his chair, two arms folded, while the other two gestured with casual superiority. "Excellent. I'm sure you have reached the reasonable conclusion. The hegemony is prepared to begin integration procedures immediately. Military bases will be peacefully occupied, your factories evaluated, and your population processed for optimal placement within our work systems." "That is very interesting," Williams replied, her tone giving nothing away. "Before we give you our formal response, I would like to ask a question about your demonstration 3 days ago." The alien's four eyes focused on her with mild curiosity, like a teacher indulging a student's question, of course. "That asteroid you destroyed, you mentioned it was 7 billion tons of material. How long did it take your ship to charge that weapon?" Kethfer's laugh carried its usual crystal-like harmony, but there was a note of condescension in it. "A very good observation. The charging sequence required approximately 4 of your minutes. Quite efficient, considering the enormous energy output involved." Williams nodded thoughtfully, as if filing away an important piece of information. "For minutes, you mentioned that weapon was considered small by your standards?" "Indeed. Our true warships carry planet-destroying weapons that make the stellar dominance look like a messenger boat." "That is fascinating," Williams said, then turned to General Chen with what might have been the hint of a smile. "General, would you like to show the ambassador our response?" Chen smiled for the first time since the aliens had arrived, a genuine, warm smile that somehow made the temperature in the room feel like it had dropped 10 degrees. "It would be my absolute pleasure, Madam President." Activated a holographic display that filled the air above the conference table. Instead of Earth's familiar blue surface, the display showed the entire solar system from an outside perspective, with enhanced sensor readings that made every artificial object visible as glowing points of light. Kethfer leaned forward, his skin shifting to deeper, confused colors. "What am I looking at?" "Our response," Williams said simply. The display zoomed in on Earth's moon. Where space had appeared empty to alien sensors, the enhanced human readings revealed massive installations, built into the lunar far side. Docking bays that could hold ships larger than the stellar dominance. Weapon platforms that hummed with contained energy signatures reading in the hundreds of terawatts. Manufacturing facilities that had been producing warships for decades. "This is impossible," one of Kethfer's military advisors spoke for the first time, his voice carrying harmonic undertones of genuine alarm. "Our scans detected no installations of this magnitude." Dr. Foster spoke up, her earlier nervous behavior completely gone. "Your scans were looking for exotic matter signatures and conventional fusion power sources. We have been using quantum, vacuum energy extraction for over 50 years. Your sensors cannot detect what they are not designed to look for." The display continued its revelation, pulling back to show the asteroid belt, what had appeared to be a natural collection of space. Rocks now revealed itself as a vast mining and construction operation. Automated facilities stretched across hundreds of thousands of cubic kilometers, their output feeding massive shipyards that had been hidden in plain sight among the asteroids. "Impressive camouflage technology," General Chen commented casually, as if discussing the weather. "Though I suppose when you have been building in space for 70 years, you learn a few useful tricks about staying hidden." Kethra's skin had shifted to colors none of the humans had seen before, deep purples and blacks that seemed to absorb all the light in the room. 70 years? But your first manned spaceflight was barely a century ago, according to our records. First public spaceflight, Williams corrected gently. After we recovered certain technologies from a ship that crashed in New Mexico in 1947, we decided it might be wise to keep our more advanced capabilities private. We learned that the galaxy can be a dangerous place for species that reveal all their secrets. The holographic display zoomed out further, revealing the outer solar system. Hidden in the shadow of Jupiter's moons, massive shipyards continued their work around the clock. Beyond Pluto, in the cold dark, where no reasonable civilization would think to look, the true scope of humanity's expansion became visible. You, see, Ambassador Williams continued, her voice taking on the patient tone of someone explaining something to a child. We learned something very important from that first contact 78 years ago. The galaxy is full of species that mistake a peaceful nature for weakness. We decided never to allow anyone to make that mistake about us. Admiral Stone's voice suddenly filled the chamber, broadcast from his flagship somewhere in the outer darkness. All fleet elements are now in position and awaiting orders. Total ship count, 4,736 vessels. Ranging from destroyer class to planet killers, estimated combined firepower, sufficient to sterilize the entire Zephyrian home system in approximately 6 hours. The silence in the conference room was absolute and deafening. Kethfer and his military advisors sat completely frozen, their skin cycling through colors that human xenobiologists would later learn represented various stages of shock, terror, and disbelief. The holographic display now showed the positions of human ships throughout the solar system. Had been there all along, invisible to Zephyrian sensors, waiting and watching. Ships that made the stellar dominance looked like a toy floated in formations that could have destroyed entire planets. Captain? Murphy's voice joined Admiral Stone's on the communication channel. Zephyrian vessels, stellar dominance, you are now surrounded by 47 ships of the Devastator class. Each one carries weapons that make your asteroid demonstration look like a child's firecracker. Kethfer tried to speak, but no sound came out. His forearms trembled as the reality of his situation became clear. The primitive species he had come to conquer had been watching his empire for longer than his own civilization had existed. They knew everything about Zephyrian technology, military capabilities, and weaknesses. Now, President Williams said, leaning back in her chair with the satisfied expression of someone who had just played a perfect hand of cards, let us discuss the terms for your immediate departure from our solar system. The Zephyrian delegation sat in stunned silence for what felt like an eternity. Kethfer's forearms hung limp at his sides, and his skin had turned colors that seemed to drain all light from the room. His military advisors looked like statues, their built-in weapons powered down in what humans would later learn was an automatic surrender response when facing overwhelming force. Finally, Kethfer found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. This cannot be real. Our intelligence networks span the entire galaxy. We would have detected such a massive military buildup. Dr. Foster smiled with what might have been genuine sympathy. Your intelligence networks are very good at finding civilizations that develop along expected patterns. You scan for the energy, signatures, monitor the communication frequencies you understand, and watch for expansion patterns that match your own experience. She gestured to another display that showed comparative technology analyses. What you did not account for was a species that learned to hide from the very beginning. Every public space mission humanity has undertaken in the last 70 years has been carefully designed to show you exactly what we wanted you to see. General Chen activated another section of the holographic display with obvious satisfaction. The International Space Station, a decoy to make us look primitive, the Mars missions, cover stories for establishing deep space monitoring posts throughout the outer system, the James Webb Telescope. Well, that one was actually real. We genuinely wanted better pictures of distant galaxies. But it also served as an excellent excuse for advanced space-based manufacturing. Captain Murphy's voice came through the communication system again, broadcasting from her position somewhere near Neptune. Zephyrian vessel's stellar dominance. I should mention that you are currently being tracked by targeting systems that can hit a coin-sized object from 3 million kilometers away. Please do not make any sudden movements. Kethver's skin had settled into a pattern of deep blue-black that seemed to absorb all available light. His military advisors had gone completely still, their integrated weapon systems powered down in what appeared to be an instinctive submission response. "How is this possible?" he whispered, his voice breaking. President Williams gestured to the timeline display, which now showed events stretching back to 1947. When that first ship crashed in New Mexico, we found something very interesting in the wreckage. Not just advanced technology, a complete database containing the locations and military capabilities of hostile species throughout this entire galactic region. "The Roswell crash was not yours," General Chen continued, clearly enjoying the revelation. "It belonged to a species called the Proximans, peaceful traders and explorers, who had been watching your hegemony's expansion with growing concern. They were coming to warn us about you." Dr. Foster pulled up another display showing a sleek silver ship that looked nothing like the crystalline Zephyrian design. "The Proximans have been our partners and teachers for over 7 decades. Are peaceful by nature, but they learned long ago that sometimes peace must be backed by overwhelming strength." A new voice joined the communication channel, clearly non-human, but with a melodic quality that was somehow more pleasant than the Zephyrian harmonics. "Ambassador Kethver, this is Commander Zaltach of the Proximan observation vessel Gentle Current. We meet again." Kethver's 4 eyes widened with recognition and something approaching pure panic. "Zelf? But your species was declared extinct after the Rigel campaign 300 years ago." "Declared extinct? Yes. Actually extinct? No."
Aximans.
Voice carried a note of dry amusement. "We have been sharing our knowledge with species capable of learning from our mistakes. Humanity proved to be remarkably quick students." The holographic display now showed the true scope of the Human Proximan Alliance. Ships of both designs working together in massive construction projects that spanned the outer solar system. Combined, research stations that pushed the boundaries of known physics. And throughout it all, a careful program of misdirection that had kept their true capabilities hidden from galactic surveillance for decades. "Your 7-day ultimatum was actually quite convenient," President Williams said with a slight smile. "It gave us time to fully deploy our fleet and bring our Proximan allies out of hiding. We have been waiting for this moment for a very long time." Admiral Stone's voice carried a note of professional curiosity. "I am curious about something, Ambassador. You mentioned that your weapon took 4 minutes to charge for that asteroid demonstration. Our equivalent systems can achieve the same effect in 0.3 seconds. Are all Zephyrian targeting systems similarly limited?" The largest of Kethver's military advisors finally spoke, his voice carrying harmonics of complete defeat.
"Our weapons
"Require exotic matter resonance cascades. The charging time is a fundamental limitation of the physics we use." "Ah," Dr. Foster said, with genuine understanding. "You are still using exotic matter manipulation for weapons. We moved past that technology about 30 years ago. Quantum vacuum fluctuation allows for essentially instantaneous energy extraction and weapon discharge." Captain Murphy's voice crackled through the communication system with barely contained amusement. "Ambassador, I am looking at your ship's defensive screens right now through our sensors. Very impressive against conventional energy weapons, I must admit. I am curious how they would perform against quantum dissolution beams that completely bypass conventional physics." "They would not," Kethver admitted, his voice barely audible. President Williams leaned forward, her expression becoming serious for the first time during the meeting. "Now let us be absolutely clear about something. We do not want a war. Do not want to destroy the hegemony or harm your people unnecessarily. But we also will not be joining your work colonies or surrendering our independence to anyone." "What do you want from us?" Kethver asked, sounding like a lost child. "Respect," General Chen said simply. "Recognition that humanity is not a primitive species ready for exploitation. We want to be left alone to develop as we choose, with the clear understanding that we are quite capable of defending ourselves against any threat. Commander Zolth's voice added a note of hope to the tense proceedings. The galaxy is vast enough for multiple civilizations to coexist peacefully. The hegemony's expansion through conquest model is not the only way to build an interstellar civilization. Williams stood, and the entire human delegation rose with her in a coordinated display of unity. You are welcome to return to your superiors with our message. Earth and its colonies are under the protection of the Human Proximate Alliance. Any attempt at conquest or coercion will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. And before you consider testing our resolve, Admiral Stone added with military precision, please note that we have had 70 years to study hegemony tactics, technology, and strategic weaknesses. We know the location of every major Zephyrian world, the composition of your fleets, and the political structure that holds your empire together. The holographic display showed detailed star charts with Zephyrian territories clearly marked with comprehensive analyses of their military capabilities and critical vulnerabilities. It was clear that humanity knew more about the hegemony than the hegemony knew about itself. Cuthbert slowly rose to his full height, but the gesture no longer carried any sense of superiority or threat. We will convey your message to the hegemony. Council immediately. Excellent, Williams replied with genuine warmth. Safe travels, Ambassador. And please remember, we much prefer to be good neighbors rather than enemies. But that choice is entirely yours to make. As the Zephyrian delegation filed out of the chamber, their footsteps no longer carried the confident rhythm of conquerors. Through the windows, the stellar dominants could be seen preparing for immediate departure. Surrounded by a subtle distortion in space that marked the positions of human ships maintaining a respectful but absolutely unmistakable escort. 3 hours later, as the alien vessel disappeared into the dark between stars, President Williams stood in the Pentagon's command center, watching the fleet disperse back to their hidden positions throughout the solar system. Think they will come back? General Chen asked. Dr. Foster looked up from her final xenobiology analysis. Eventually, but next time, they will come as diplomats seeking trade agreements, not as conquerors demanding surrender. Admiral Stones. The voice came through the communication system one final time. All fleet elements returning to standard patrol positions. Earth remains secure under full protection. President Williams nodded, looking out at the stars that humanity now knew were full of both potential friends and possible enemies. Commander Zelth, thank you for your people's continued partnership and guidance. Thank you, President Williams, for proving that not all young species are destined to become galactic bullies. The galaxy is a much better and safer place with humanity as part of it. As the immediate crisis passed and normal life began to resume, the real work was just beginning. Establishing formal diplomatic relations with galactic civilization would take time, but now it would happen on humanity's terms.